The cardinal slipped behind her and swung his sword in a heavy arc. Even high-tier armor split apart under the strike. The blade cut into her skin and blood seeped through. Charles II panicked. He struck the force field repeatedly with his royal sword, but each hit rebounded, shaking him instead. He yelled that Alice wasn't evil and could still be saved. Beyond defeating the goblins and the Great Tomb, saving Alice had always been his true goal. Now, the church was determined to kill her. The cardinal answered him helplessly, saying that neither Alice nor he could turn back anymore. This mistake could only be carried through to the end, and he apologized again. Charles II, furious, ordered every nearby soldier to focus on breaking the barrier. But the holy force field was an ultimate control spell. Not even the caster could destroy it. The more power it absorbed, the stronger it grew. Only overwhelming force could shatter it, and that wasn't something they had. All Charles II could do was watch as Alice endured strike after strike, her body soaked in blood. Her armor was ruined beyond recognition. She breathed heavily, having blocked countless heavy blows in just moments. Her hands were swollen and battered, her arms aching so badly they barely responded. One small slip would end her life. She wondered if this was where her mission ended. The demons in the royal city were still alive. Then that harsh, unsettling voice returned, casually suggesting she looked exhausted and should rest while it took over. She rejected it immediately, refusing to give in. The Darkspawn replied that she'd misunderstood. It said it was only offering power, because if she died, it would be captured by the church and lose its chance to indulge in blood again. Alice hesitated. If she didn't do something, she really would die here. She made her choice and told it to proceed. Seeing Alice half kneeling in blood, the cardinal and the others felt a brief sense of relief. He told her goodbye. The holy knight shut his eyes and lifted his heavy sword, preparing to end her life quickly, hoping to spare her further pain. Charles II cried out, begging them to stop and calling her his child. The sword came down, and was knocked aside by a terrifying force. It pierced upward, embedding halfway into the force field above. The cardinal's face changed as he felt the rapidly rising aura. He immediately ordered everyone to back away. Alice's shattered armor melted and reshaped itself into black armor that wrapped tightly around her body. Vein-like patterns spread across its surface, pulsing faintly. A thick crimson aura surrounded her. The cardinal finally understood what he was seeing and identified it as a darkspawn. He shouted for everyone to kill her immediately and not let her escape the barrier. Alice responded with a faint, mocking smile. She struck the force field again and again. With soldiers outside attacking as well, the barrier finally shattered. Facing the mass of Imperial soldiers, Alice raised her hand and formed a dark crimson sphere. Their blood was pulled from their bodies and absorbed completely. The cardinal tried to cast another spell, but blood spilled from his mouth. Casting 2 ultimate spells had pushed him to his limit. Even so, he forced himself to continue and invoked ultimate magic, holy retribution. The clouds split apart. A massive golden sword descended slowly, igniting as it cut through the air. It plunged toward Alice with crushing force, like a mountain falling from the sky. Soldiers and goblins alike scattered in fear. The holy knight cried out in shock, unable to believe the cardinal would use such a spell. It would erase everything within 300 meters, sparing only the strongest. The cardinal knew exactly what he was doing. He ordered them to hold Alice down and said there was no time left. If she completed her transformation and released the Darkspawn, the world wouldn't survive it. Everyone held back as much as they could. If they attacked recklessly, no one nearby would live. Protecting allies no longer mattered as much as stopping what was happening. Alice kept absorbing blood, the black-red armor becoming more alive with each moment. The vein-like lines pulsed like muscle, forming something closer to an exoskeleton. This was the Darkspawn's body, rebuilding itself through the chaos of war, trying to break free of Alice's control. Alice warned it coldly to stop, saying she would kill it herself if it went any further. The darkspawn answered slyly, saying it only needed a little more to ensure victory. She shouted at it to stop. Her power surged outward, releasing a violent wave of blood energy that sent dozens flying. Forced to back off, the darkspawn complained but agreed, telling her to deal with the threat above and use its power. Alice raised her blade toward the massive sword in the sky and activated her technique. Ultimate sword skill, Abyssal Blood Sea. For red magic circles formed as a vision of a vast sea of blood appeared, swallowing the golden sword whole. The cardinal stared in shock, unable to accept what he was seeing. For magic circles, he shouted for everyone to attack together and finish her. The holy knight pulled his sword free and charged forward, leading the temple guards straight at Alice. Alice watched them with an icy look, her gaze carrying nothing but killing intent. She didn't move from where she stood, calm and steady. When the holy knight and his group charged in with full force, she cut down the leading temple guard in a single motion. The heavy sword snapped in two, and the armor gave way instantly under the strength behind her strike. The cardinal shouted for everyone to stay cautious, warning that getting isolated meant instant death. He ordered them to rely on magic instead and slowly wear her down. The pressure he felt was unlike anything before. The holy knight and the others began chanting spells. Beams of bright holy light shot toward Alicia one after another. She slipped past them smoothly, her movements flowing as if she were dancing. The attacks missed her completely and tore through goblins behind her instead. No one felt relieved. The cardinal realized this situation had gone far beyond their control. He thought the Pope himself might need to step in. If this dark existence wasn't destroyed now, the outcome would be catastrophic. In less than a heartbeat, while the cardinal was still thinking, she appeared right in front of him. That rough, inhuman voice came from her mouth again. He swung his sword on instinct, but hit nothing. When he turned his head, another temple guard had already fallen. Bathed in blood, Alice carried a dangerous elegance, taking lives and blood as if it were effortless. The cardinal found himself unable to cast powerful spells anymore, and was forced into close combat. He ordered the holy knight and the others to regroup. He told them that numbers mattered and that attacking together was their only chance. Even a single successful hit could let holy power suppress her. The four of them fought side by side, blades flashing non-stop. Alice faced them with one hand on her sword, calmly blocking all four weapons at once. She didn't give ground, not even a step. If anything, she looked relaxed. The sight made the cardinal's hands tremble. He wondered aloud what kind of swordsmanship this was, saying only Reinhardt of the Kingdom of Swords should be capable of something like this. That kingdom was the Lionheart Empire's rival, constantly clashing along the border. Reinhardt, their king, was known as the Sword Saint of the age. Alice had only been called Sword Saintess, a saint who used a sword, not a true sword saint. Alice responded immediately, scoffing at the comparison and asking how Reinhardt could even be mentioned in the same breath as her. Swordsmanship was born from endless battle and slaughter. It had ruled the fear of the battlefield for centuries. Comparing it to a human with a short lifespan was laughable. The cardinal stopped talking and pressed his attack harder. Then a sharp cracking sound rang out. A fracture spread across the holy cross sword in his hand. Before he could react, Alice struck decisively. The blade shattered completely, marking the end of his resistance. The holy knight and the others shouted his title and rushed forward to save him. But after fighting non-stop, their bodies were already pushed too far. They were too slow. Blood sprayed as an arm was severed. Alice mocked their sluggish movements, saying their blood stank, and drove her sword straight through the holy knight's chest. The light in his eyes faded as he stumbled back and collapsed. The injured cardinal cried out his name in agony. Gritting his teeth, he forced himself up and tried to flee. Alice moved to finish him, but the last two temple guards rushed in and blocked her path. They didn't last long. Blood poured from their necks as they struggled to speak, urging the cardinal to report to the Pope at once. They all understood what needed to be done. The cardinal thought the same. Without the Pope, this situation would spiral completely out of control. As he vanished into the crowd, Alice prepared to chase after him. The dark presence stopped her, warning that the one backing him wasn't someone they could handle yet. Lin Tian stepped in as well, telling her not to pursue. They had just finished off the remaining temple guards. Only Gobu Kuang and Gobu Shan had taken light injuries. Lin Tian asked if she could really keep suppressing that presence, pointing out that her body was already being pushed too hard and needed time to recover. Even if the sword skill belonged to the dark being, she was still the one wielding it. The strain on her body was obvious. The dark presence replied calmly, saying there were still plenty of enemies ahead, and that holding back now would only lead to danger later. Alice understood that much. She tried to tighten her control over the ominous blade and suppress the dark presence completely. This guy is Su Hong. One random day, purely by accident, he ended up catching the attention of a god and was unexpectedly blessed with a strange system. Through it, he could learn martial skills, track his progress, and slowly grow stronger. Early on, he struggled hard, surviving fights by grit and luck rather than power. Over time, constant battles pushed him forward, and the system became something he truly mastered. Now in the present, Su Hong has broken through into a real martial artist, turning deadly situations into his advantage and facing powerful enemies head-on. Full recap of this manhwa is on the channel, links in the description.